Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whatever time and whatever place you're watching me from. My name is Daisy Simidi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here we talk everything from spirituality to healing to self-confidence. We talk about literally everything, and today we are going to talk about something different that I've never done here, because this is just one of the things that captured my attention this week. And we are going to do a book review, as you have seen on the title. And the book review is Confessions of Nairobi Men by Joan Thatiah. This book has really caught my attention. Here she is. This is the back of the book. Isn't she just so pretty? And I am so obsessed with this book. One, because, well, she is a Kenyan author, and I love reading. It's one of my hobbies. I read a lot, and I came to read this book, and it's one of the things that has been on my mind for a long time. So let us begin the review, and I really wanted to read the synopsis that the author has wrote behind here. And she says, Confessions of Nairobi Men is a culmination of 3 years Joan Thatiah has spent listening to stories of men and women living in Nairobi. The stories in this book are as raw and messy as they are bold and awe-inspiring. In this book, you will meet men who have been brave, men who have been broken in every way, men who are still trying to pick up the pieces of their lives, and men who are deeply faulted. In this book, you will look them in the eye. The writer hopes that you can read their stories without judgment. And then she goes ahead to tell us that some of the stories in this book may be hard to read, which is very true. This is the book that tells about the experiences of men and women living in Nairobi. The key themes that I got from reading this book was trauma, suicide, abuse, addiction, love, romantic and platonic relationships, betrayal, career, death, heart, secrets, survival, and some even had happy endings. All the stories caught my attention, honestly, and the author has said, of course, that some stories are very hard to read, which is very true. There are some stories that are literally hard to take time and just ponder. There are some stories that brought me to tears. There are some stories that I was just like, where? Okay. It was so hard to read some of them, and I had to place myself in the shoes of some of these men. And honestly, I was wondering how these individuals have managed to survive the trauma that they have faced, and how they have been able to pick up the pieces together and taking each day by faith. Some of the men in this book have been broken. Some of them are still trying to recover. Some of them are still trying to heal. And I think also this book was so full of laughter. It had some comments that were so sarcastic, and I just laughed my heart out, even in the midst of someone telling a story that is very painful and it's very personal and dear to them. And first of all, even before I go far, I really want to thank these men who are courageous enough to even open up to Joan and just be vulnerable to tell their story. It is indeed an honor to have read of what you have gone through. And in case you stumble upon this video, you are really strong and you are a hero. In case nobody has told you that, the fact that you have survived all this, and the fact that this is your life story that is bringing me to tears. I mean, you guys are just incredible. Find a way to read this book. I really encourage you to read. I even don't know Joan personally, by the way, so I just love her work, honestly, and I think it is very good to appreciate someone's work and appreciate a good book, and she deserves the flowers. You go buy that book. So this book has 15 chapters, and the 15 chapters are 15 different stories from 15 different men. These are the chapters that caught my attention, and I'm not going to give you the whole of it. I'm just going to give you just a little bit spoilers for you to go and get this book. And the first one is, of course, the first story. It's called Too Little Time. too little time. And this story, when I read it, I was like, how is this man surviving? I love how at the end he says that he's still a great father to his incredible three children. So when I read this book, of course, this is just like it's a tip of the iceberg. It's like a drop of water in the ocean. It's not the full story, but I read the story and I was like, but why did she die? I really wanted to know the end. Honestly, it's one of those stories that you read and you're like, okay, how are you doing right now? Did you find the father of the other two biological children after finding the one that is not yours? And it is just a case of even me extending kindness to this person and knowing, oh, people are going through it all. The second story is called A Bag of Anger, and it's the second chapter. Also, this one really caught my attention, and this one is about a boy called Gonza. And you know, this boy defends his mother from violence at home because it got to a time, and he says throughout the story that his father was abusive, but when some things happened, his father, it went overboard. And this time he tries defending the mother from the father and pushes his dad over a balcony, and his dad unfortunately dies. And so he just recalls a moment where he goes to an approved school for 4 years and he's happy to come back home, but people don't receive him with open arms. And people look at him like that boy who did this and this and this. And I look at his story and him even trying to commit suicide, him having to face sexual assault even at work. I just cried. I literally cried when I heard this story. When I read this story, I literally cried when I read this story. And I hope he finds happiness, and I hope he finds a sustaining job which will be able to even sustain him. And I just pray that his mother heals. I literally started praying for these guys. My God, these guys have been through it all. And the third one that really caught my attention. Now, this is the story that made me cry, and then cry once more. And this is a story that I think for me, it was the hardest to read. And this is the third chapter of the book, and it's called, this is it. The streets break me and put me back together. This is a story of Jim, who is a cab driver in Nairobi. And this story was hard to read. I literally had to take breaks from reading this story. I read it, I place it down, I read it again and place it down. And the trauma that this man has endured, I don't know what to tell you, but this one, I'm not even going to give you a spoiler, but honestly, the third chapter was, for me, it was the hardest to read. Anyone who has read this book, which was the hardest for you to read, and even if you go look for it and buy it, please tell me which story really caught your attention, because for me, it was the third chapter. The streets break me and put me back together. All of the stories were really incredible, and all of them to some extent brought me to tears, but this third one is very heavy. This third one is very heavy. And I just think about Jim, and I'm just like, you're so strong, man. I don't know how you've done it. I read these stories, and I read these stories and I was like, people are going through it all in life. And the way she has just said, I hope you read this story without judgment. There's this man that will say, he's been an alcoholic, and then if you read his story, you're just like, anybody else, I don't know, you are strong, in fact, for just going through what you went through. It doesn't matter whether you are an alcoholic or not. Like, life has really pushed its buttons on you. one thing that I've loved about this book also is because it is so relatable. As a person who has stayed in Nairobi for quite some time, the places that are mentioned, it is so relatable. You hear Syokimau, Kitusuru, Sarit Center, and you're like, these are the places that I have seen. And since Joan says that the book is as raw as, like, she has tried to literally bring this character for us to understand him. Literally, I mean, to me it was just like, oh, so Nyayo is mentioned, and I'm thinking about how many and I'm just trying to place some pieces together. And sometimes I just think and ponder the book. So I really love how the places that are mentioned are not even fictional or imaginative. They are real, actual places that I have been to. And again, another thing that I've also liked about this book is the way it has just made me to realize people are going through it all. And right now I look people from a different perspective. When I see people on the streets, I'm like, everybody has a story to tell, and maybe they just survived their stories and they're so grateful to be even where they are. This story has a lot, this book, the men are telling stories, and it has a lot of cases of suicide. A lot of men have tried committing suicide. It's so unfortunate that even these things happen to you. It's so unfortunate that you'll have to live the rest of your life without some answers and a sort of peace of mind that you even wanted for yourself. But again, I love how they just choose to live, and they choose to believe in themselves. Even if it's the last thing that they are doing, they choose to wake up the next day morning and to do life. They give life a chance, and they have given life a chance again. One thing I disliked about this book, it actually ends. I just feel like Joan could have put 100 stories and maybe do a part 2 of this book, Confessions of Nairobi Men. I'm really looking forward to reading Confessions of Nairobi Women, and I see how similar or contrast the books are. So I just wish the book was longer and we had more stories and more time to interact with these characters. It is a 267-page book. Joan is a hero. Joan is an incredible author, and this is so beautiful. Whatever you're doing is so beautiful, Joan. It is so incredible, and thank you so much for even being a voice to the men in this book. This is her 9th book, so she has other 8 books. Yo, let's go support our own. Yeah, that is all that I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed this book review. If you want me to do more book reviews, please suggest the book and I will read it and definitely do a review on it. That is all that I had for you today. Remember to purchase the book. Remember to subscribe, share, comment, and follow me on my socials. I'm not very big on social media, by the way, but you can follow me on my social media. If you feel like, yeah, thank you so much. You guys have a great day. God bless you for being here, and have a great time. Honestly, be blessed. Bye.